This is Gene, and I'm on the surface. And as I take man's last step from the surface, back home for some time to come, but we believe not too long into the future, I'd like to just let what I believe history will record that America's challenge of today has forged man's destiny of tomorrow. And as we leave the moon in Taurus literal, we leave as we came, and God willing, as we shall return, with peace and in hope for all mankind. Godspeed, the crew of Apollo 17.
Alright, good afternoon everyone, welcome to Radio Campus. I hope you're doing good. This is Felix and I have the great pleasure to be here today with two interviewees. I am with Heather Tatton. You are museum navigator right into the Moonshot Museum down in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and qu'ont Chopra, propulsion engineer in Astrobotics. Well, thanks a lot both of you to be here. It's a great pleasure to receive you on our show. And first of all, how are you doing?
Fantastic. Yeah, thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank you so much for having us, Felix.
Yeah, it's a great pleasure to interview both of you because you work around something in common. You both work around a pretty special and unique museum that is in Pittsburgh and that is related to the Astrobotic company you are also working in. Could you briefly please present us the museum itself, and please both introduce yourself as well.
Maybe I'll start since you specifically asked about the museum. So I'm Heather Tatton, so I am a museum navigator, and I've been involved in the Moonshot Museum for about a couple years now, since we opened in October of 2022. So a little bit about the museum is that it's the first of its kind. So it's a museum specifically focused on career and community readiness for the 21st space industry. And when people think of museums, people might think of, the ancient past or old statues or rocks under glass and things like that. And I love a good museum, don't get me wrong. I love learning about history. But our museum is focused on the future, right? What is the world going to look like in 50 odd years when people are living around and on the moon? And what are the types of jobs that are going to come out of that? And the different types of policies that we're going to have to think of, right? So, and not only that, but we also have something really unique. So we have a window right into a clean room, right into Astrobotic, a space company. And so it provides the community with unprecedented access to the space industry in a way that we believe has never been done before, right? So you can come in right off the street, you can walk in and just pay the small price of admission and be able to see a real spacecraft being built. And so it's something really unique that we have in our community. And yeah, it's just connecting kind of with those people around us in a way that's never been done.
Yeah, and I can echo Heather's comments. Definitely from an engineer perspective, I joined Astrobotic right after we won the Griffin lunar lander mission contract with NASA. And for me, just knowing that the Moonshot Museum was going to open up with a focus on career readiness for the future of space and, the 21st century. And to me, that means a lot because as an engineer, having that connectedness and proximity within Pittsburgh and being able to take, whether it's engineers and everyone from the Astrobotic team to showcase all the amazing collaboration that's done behind the scenes and what it takes for us to actually build the spacecraft. So that awareness from perspective from Astrobotic and what Moonshot Museum is doing has just been a huge blessing for us at Astrobotic.
All right, thanks. I'm curious to know, how did you reach an agreement about making a museum with Astrobotic? Heather, you just told us that it was the first of its kind, which is true. And I don't think there is any other museum in the world that is doing this. So how did all of that start actually? Like, what kind of agreement were made on making a museum where people can see the actual work? I guess there are some industrial stuff that have to stay secret, for example. So just tell us, how did all of that start?
Right, that's a great question, Felix. So Astrobotic it moved from the Strip District, which is an area of Pittsburgh, if you're not familiar. It moved from a different district in 2020, and it moved into Manchester, which is a different neighborhood. And this great building offered an opportunity to open a museum. And I think that we all love museums, and they all love museums. And they founded something separate, so the Astrobotics Foundation, which is a completely separate nonprofit entity, which started the museum in October 2022. And the clean room window was always there, so they decided, hey, what if we had a museum here and we were able to share with the community what we have going on in our building? And we could do something really unique, like what I just discussed a little bit earlier. So it's a way to kind of connect with the community, like I said, but then also kind of get everybody ready for what the space industry is becoming. In just a few short years, we've come so far, right? And so I think that it kind of keeps going, and within a few years from now, we don't know what we're going to be looking at. So things are changing so quickly. So it's a way to kind of keep up with that and keep everybody involved. And I don't know if Konark, if you want to add to that at all.
Oh, I think that's a perfect description of how we kind of got together.
Okay, great. So another question for both of you is that why do you think it's important for people to see the actual work on an actual spacecraft? Like, what kind of impact could it have, for example, on the young folks that maybe is they're gonna work in that sector later? There are also in the whole world, but also in the US, a big issue about the conspiracy theories and all of that, and maybe people, seeing it for real can change their mind. So why do you think it's very important to see the real stuff?
Yeah, just to start things off, more emphasis on my point earlier on the collaboration. I grew up volunteering at museums, in space museums, not necessarily connected with space companies. So for me, it was an amazing opportunity to show to the world like the final product or the hardware that everyone gets to see. But the beauty of Moonshot Museum is, everyone who does, get the chance to come to the museum can see what's happening behind the scenes, the integration, the efforts to actually put things together. And that's when you recognize it's not just one individual, right? It's a team of individuals with, the diverse skill set and coming from different backgrounds who are working on different things on the spacecraft, right? Like, I'm working on the propulsion side of things, yet I have to work with the integration folks who have a lot of electrical knowledge, and yet at the end of the day, we work together to actually build that final product. So I think when future generations, and definitely when I went to the museums growing up, I would always be excited to see the final product. But had there been museums showing like a clean room and the environment to build a spacecraft, I feel like I'd be definitely with a lot more inspiration moving forward on what it takes. But that's just a little bit from my perspective.
That's amazing, Konark. Yeah. I think working as a volunteer, we have many volunteers, that come in from all walks of life. We all have this one thing in common, that we're obsessed with space, and we just want to talk about it all day. But what I wanted to mention too, Felix, is that we have people from all walks of life that come into the museum. And if our museum wasn't there, they would never get this access to the space industry. They would never get the chance to see this. So our access to the community is so different in the fact that we have people coming in that are space nerds, right? So we have like NASA people coming in, we have people from SpaceX, we have people from ULA. You can name the space company, there's probably been someone in our museum from that company. But what is really cool is that we have people come in off the street that know nothing about space. And they just come in because they heard that we opened and they wanted to see it. And so they can come in with zero knowledge and leave with some knowledge about what's happening. And that's what we hope to do, is ignite that passion, in the young Konarks of the world, and the kids, but then also the adults as well, to give them that renewed passion and renewed interest in the space industry. So it reaches a variety of different types of people, Spacecraft, is a huge deal, because I think a lot of people don't really realize that it's going to the moon, and they walk in and they look at it and they say, oh, that's going to the moon? Is it? They think it's a trick at first, and I'm like, no, that is going. That is the spacecraft. That is it. And this is the real workspace that you're looking at. And these are real engineers and real technicians. So it really blows their minds. It's amazing.
Right, very interesting. So for a long time, the spacecraft that had been shown at the Moonshot Museum was the Peregrine probe, right? The Peregrine probe actually had a little problem, unfortunately. It didn't reach the moon due to a propellant leak. It was forced to re-enter the atmosphere on the 18th of January 2024. And I was curious, now that the probe didn't reach the moon, like you just told us, Heather, for example, people at first don't believe it. They say it's going to the moon for real. How do they react to your museum? Like, are they kind of disappointed about having seen a spacecraft that didn't land the moon while they thought it was supposed to? Or on the opposite, do they trust you and, encourage you, support you on the next landers? What are the reaction on that?
Yeah, so it's been really positive, actually. And I might go to Konark on anything specifically related to Peregrine, but I have to say, from the community standpoint, we put up a poster board in our lobby, and we had people coming in from all around and writing notes to the engineers, and we call them Astrobots. So the Astrobots at Astrobotic, everyone was just like kind of writing down supportive messages. So I think it was disappointment initially, right, that it didn't quite turn out the way that we expected. But sometimes it was the mission not that we wanted, but it's the mission that we got, right? And I think that the community really showed up and put their passion behind that. But then it's continuing to be fantastically supportive. So I can speak to that side of it for sure. So I don't know if you wanted to say anything else, Konark.
Yeah, no, for sure, Heather. And just to add on the encouragement side of things, although I didn't directly work the Peregrine mission, seeing kind of living through the Peregrine team and understanding the support and encouragement from the community, even after a hardware failure that we ran into, was just, it was amazing, because at the end of the day, everyone realized, this was our first mission, there was risk, but there were, at least from our eyes, a lot of victories through that, right? We were going towards the moon, we were collecting so much data, we ran into issues which were definitely difficult to deal with, but we were still able to operate the spacecraft and collect the data and just learn more about the spacecraft. So from our eyes, I mean, this was it was almost a victory. Granted, we didn't land on the moon, but we got a lot of data that is super beneficial for us to take at Astrobotic and implement into future lander missions like Griffin that we have coming up.
Yeah, well, it's a good thing you're talking to us about that, because indeed, in most of those cases, the engineers collect the data for the future mission. You just told us about Griffin. Well, can you tell us anything about that future mission, the Griffin lunar lander in which you are working in?
Yeah, 1000%. So the Griffin lunar lander, we were awarded this contract from NASA to take a heavy payload, much larger than Peregrine, to return to the south pole of the moon. And for this mission, it's similar in terms of architecture to Peregrine, but definitely for the scale that we're dealing with, the amount of payload that we have to take, a lot of challenges that we have to face with, and just a bigger architecture. So it's kind of like you're designing it for a car instead of a golf cart. So really just that bigger scale leads to different challenges that you're dealing with. We still have NASA support to proceed with Griffin, so they're very supportive, and we're having a lot of discussions with them back and forth to really evaluate what that final launch date is going to be.
Yeah, okay, yeah, of course, with Astrobotics, there is SpaceX, there's a lot of companies NASA is working in, and they are doing a lot of stuff about the moon, so of course sometimes that's right, it changes, it moves a lot in those days, it moves a lot.
And honestly, at one point, at least for the Astrobots side, we are super committed to the mission, and everything that we have learned from Peregrine, we're looking to incorporate into Griffin and demonstrate that we can successfully land on the moon. So if anything, there's so much excitement internally and drive to really get to the finish line.
Now, another question that I'm really interested in, for both of you, how close do you feel to the spacecraft, like emotionally speaking, when there is so much, good and bad news and all stuff running all around? We saw, for example, in a lot of documentaries and interviews, engineers, but also all the staff working around the spacecraft feel very close to the spacecraft itself. So, I mean, there are even some people that consider it like their baby, you see. So, how you Konark engineer, and you, Heather, museum navigator around the spacecraft, both of you, how close do you feel, emotionally speaking, to these spacecrafts?
Yeah, so at least from my eyes, it's spacecraft and mission. This is something that I fully, deeply resonate with the vision that we do have at Astrobotic, to really just help enable and further, provide access to space for the entire world. But for us, it's, I walk outside at night and I look at the moon, and it's great knowing that, you mentioned having that product as your baby. And for me, it's like Griffin does feel like my baby, and specifically on the propulsion system, because I know at the end of the day, we do need to make fire come out of that spacecraft in a controlled manner to make sure we can have that trajectory towards the moon. But for me, it's, that spacecraft, but where are we going? What's the destination? And that's something that I just really care about. And, when I talk to other astrobots, it's that same enthusiasm for the care for the spacecraft, for the mission that keeps them moving. So it's really just that we fuel off each other's energy, and everyone's just, coming into work is super excited about the spacecraft and the mission. And we just want to go to the moon. We want to make that happen.
I love it. Yeah, I definitely want to echo that. I don't know if I feel as close as maybe the engineers do, but I do have to kind of echo in the fact that myself and the other staff and the volunteers, we feel pretty close to the spacecrafts that are in the building, because we spend a ton of time talking about them and being around them and talking to visitors about them. So I think just as a part of that, you just become naturally intrinsically involved, you want to know what's going on, and you want to kind of support any way you can. I feel like the museum is kind of like the cheerleaders of the Astrobot team, and the fact that we're kind of cheering on from the sidelines, because we're all space nerds and we want to go to the moon, and we want to support in whatever ways that we think it's possible. But and also I noticed that our visitors, like we said earlier, are very supportive as well. So we have a little unique community here, and I believe it's something like a space company has never seen before. So Astrobotic is dealing with this community that's being built through the museum, and this group of cheerleaders, which is very different, but I think that it's creating, this very passionate, group of people that just wants to help, and we all want to go to the moon, so.
Yeah, I love that, Heather, because to me, just thinking more about that, it's everyone is playing a role, right? At the end of the day, even your efforts, the Moonshot Museum, volunteers, individuals like Felix, right? What you're doing right now to spread awareness. When we do land on the moon, I'm going to look back to these events and the encouragement, the support, the efforts to bring the community together to accomplish, something as grand as returning to the moon. So it's really all of our efforts combined, beyond the engineering, right? You've got amazing folks from business and all over the map effectively to make sure we can pull this mission off.
Crowds cheering here. Cell phones up, cameras up. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and totality. Totality, everyone. Oh my God!
Oh wow! Oh my God!
I was so nervous.
Wow! I know, I wasn't sure because we had some high clouds, but oh my goodness, you can see that corona extending out. Oh wow!
Alright, so out of curiosity, while we're speaking a lot into space stuff, moon stuff, did you see the eclipse of last 8th of April 2024? It was visible only in North America, so in France, in Europe, we didn't have that chance, fortunately. I know there are a lot of American and Canadian folks that traveled a lot to see it. Was it your case?
I traveled, yeah.
Yeah?
To see the eclipse. Yeah, so I traveled about 8 hours, so we drove into the middle of nowhere and camped for a week to have clear skies. And I woke up very early that morning planning on leaving the state if it was going to be cloudy. So fortunately I had clear skies and I could stay in rural Indiana. Yeah, it was beyond extraordinary. I had full intentions of recording everything and the crowd reaction, but in the moment my arm just dropped. I had my phone, I was recording, and then I just dropped. I just couldn't even record anymore. I was just yelling, and everyone around me in this park was all we were all just kind of blown away. So I think that it brings that kind of space to everyone in a way that they're not used to, right? And so we saw like, space in news articles, and people that don't normally think about space were seeing it on the TV. And so I think that it was kind of like a really amazing thing. And to be a space nerd and to see it, it's just like beyond amazing. But yeah, Kodak, did you get to see the eclipse too?
No, super jealous of you, Heather. I did not. I tried to make travel plans last second. I was out at our suppliers, but I did step outside and see the kind of the difference, but I wasn't at the primary points, so the path of totality. So didn't get to see the greatness, but heard lots about it. Did a lot, looked into it a ton. So definitely exciting.
There will be more,
Yep.
Yeah.
So I recommend it if you haven't gotten the chance.
Well, to all of our French and European folks like me that are maybe listening to this, there will be one in 2026 that will be visible at the very north of Spain, if I believe it is. So it may be the chance for us Europeans to go to it before, because afterwards it's gonna be in the ocean or in Australia, all of that. So anyway.
It's gonna be, you'll turn into an eclipse chaser then. So I'll be going to Iceland as well as Egypt here in the future. So you turn into this person that wants to see it, every time.
Yeah.
So it kind of creates this need to travel and go see. So just be aware, just be prepared.
Well, do you have any last word, both of you, to add anything we didn't talk about you would like to mention before we finish this?
I think I wanted to talk a little bit about the future of Moonshot Museum, because we've had some really exciting developments recently. So for future projects, Moonshot Museum is partnered with NASA. So we'll be serving students with a traveling planetarium, robotics workshops, a team building mission where we'll have students create their own space businesses, and even students designing experiments that will launch on balloons to the stratosphere. So we just received an amazing grant from NASA to do this, so we're partnering with them and doing these amazing things and bringing science to communities and exposure to communities that would otherwise receive it. So really excited to get started with all of this, the new developments. And we have a new director as well, so there's lots of amazing things that are happening at the museum.
Yeah, I could just say I'm super excited about what Heather's saying. I grew up in the restaurant industry, and pivoting to space for me, I was fortunate enough to run across this NASA Scholars Program. So lucky that I caught that poster in high school, but had I not done so, I don't know if I'd be here today. But having an organization like the Moonshot Museum today is just so amazing, because now students have more access, and the future generation would have more awareness, right? Whether it's through these interviews or through the Moonshot Museum, just a lot more exposure to what's out there in space and what it really takes. And it just cannot say enough. We really do need everyone from different backgrounds, different industries, not just engineers, really to work together to make a future into space viable. Also, appreciate all the efforts that we have at Moonshot Museum, Astrobotics, and like yourself.
Thanks a lot, both of you, for this interview. It was great to have you here. A lot of interesting stuff we talk about. I want to say to our listeners that this show will be available on replay on our website, orleans.radiocampus.org, and there will be two versions of this show actually. One, the original in English, one non-translated, will be available, and also a French translated one if you want to listen to either one of them. They will both be available on our website, right? Well, thanks a lot, Heather. Thanks a lot, Connor. Both of you. It was great to have you, and until next time, maybe.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Bye.
Until next time. Thank you.